And the left fights the right, and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was, in fact, a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat, naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, my Mark Meets guest is troubled football genius Jermaine Pennant. We'll be talking about his rise to stardom after being bought for £2 million at the age of 15. He went on to play for some of the biggest clubs in England, but also made a number of headlines off the pitch. In a Father's Day special big question, I'll be asking a simple question. Do dads still matter? Plus, reacting to the big stories of the day, my all-star panel, including model, fitness guru and businesswoman Angie Best, who's making her debut on the panel this evening, sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee, who's in the building more than me at the moment, and one of our favourite regulars, model, actress and TV personality Aisling Horgan-Wallace. We'll be talking to Aisling and Angie about the return of Big Brother. So there you go. In my take at 10, I'll be dealing with David Beckham and double standards. Some former footballers aren't helping themselves this weekend. Find out why at 10. Plus, it's Father's Day. I want to see your Father's Day selfies. Get them over. mark@gbnews.uk. Mums, you'll have to sit this one out. A very busy 2 hours, but first up the headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB Newsroom. The Transport Secretary has warned the country's biggest rail union that holding strikes this week would be a huge act of self-harm. Thousands of rail workers will walk out on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, and Grant Shapps says the RMT has ignored requests to negotiate a resolution. The union claims its members have effectively taken a 20% pay cut amid rising inflation. Labour says the government wants the strikes to go ahead to stoke political divisions. RMT's former Assistant General Secretary, Steve Headley, told GB News he agrees with Labour.
They want a distraction from soaring fuel prices, from the cost of living crisis, and they want to take on the unions. It's a great distraction. It's red meat for the Tory voters. They rally the party faithful. So I think we do, and I think this strike's really avoidable. I think we should be still around the negotiating table, but rather than negotiate in good faith with the unions, Shapps seems more interested in the latest soundbite in the press.
Well, meanwhile, rail union leaders say they're seeking urgent talks with the Transport Secretary amid rumours of mass ticket office closures in England from September. The Transport Salaried Staffs Association described the plans, which were reported in the Sunday Times, as explosive. The union says moving to online-only sales would badly impact millions of elderly and disabled people. The Rail Delivery Group, which represents train companies, says no decision has yet been made. The Labour leader says the Tories are hoarding power in the capital, which is directly linked to the cost of living crisis. Speaking in Coventry, Sir Keir Starmer warned the government's levelling up plans will fail if they don't devolve power outside of Whitehall. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has previously said it's essential to address the UK's regional inequalities. Sir Keir says a Labour government would ensure councils have a more stable income.
Hoarding power has consequences. The Tory economic record is terrible. Low growth for 12 years. Stagnant wages. And the reason for this is we're not making the most of every part of our country. We're squandering the potential in our towns, in our cities, in our coastal areas and our rural communities, all the places that you represent. We're squandering the potential.
And swimming's world governing body has voted to ban transgender athletes who've gone through male puberty from racing in women's events. The sport's new gender inclusion policy was passed by more than 70% of member federations. It means that athletes who transitioned after the age of 12 will not be allowed to compete against women. Instead, open categories will be created for them to participate. FINA President Hussein Al-Musallam says he knows the policy won't be welcomed by everyone.
Also have to protect competitive fairness at our events, especially women's competition. I completely understand that this is a policy which will not be supported by some of our transgender athletes.
We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now let's get back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. In the news agenda with my panel, can you ever forgive a murderer? Is Camilla worthy to be queen? And should Big Brother return? We'll discuss all of those issues with two former contestants of the show. Also, I'm delighted to say that we've got my panel tonight who are the self-same people. Angie Best, model, fitness guru and businesswoman, joins us for the panel as well as that discussion on Big Brother. And we're also joined by TV personality Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. And I'm delighted to say the sports broadcaster, a very good friend of the show, Aidan McGee. My Mark Meets guest is a very special guy indeed. A former Arsenal and Liverpool footballer. It's Jermaine Pennant. Bought for £2 million as a 15-year-old, he burst onto the scene in the Premier League. He was sent to prison aged 22 before making a remarkable comeback to the game, which saw him start a Champions League final 5 years later with Liverpool. He's made plenty of headlines on and off the pitch, and we'll get into all of that at 10:10. And in a Father's Day special big question, I'll be asking, do dads still matter? Are fathers still appreciated in these modern times? And how long will the holiday of honouring fathers actually last? Surely Parents' Day is now only a matter of time. I want to hear from you throughout the programme, mark@gbnews.uk. And very often it's Selfie Sunday. Well, tonight it's a Father's Day Selfie Sunday special. So send in pictures of your dads right now, mark@gbnews.uk. And it would be a dereliction of duty if I didn't wish my own father, Seamus Dolan, a happy Father's Day. There he is, in his pomp, standing outside Sir Robert Peel Pub, a business that he ran successfully for the best part of 4 decades. Seamus Dolan, I love you very much. I wouldn't be here without you, and you are my heroes. There you go. So if you got something like that, do send it in, a photograph of your dad, mark@gbnews.uk. Now, I am a father myself, and my youngest drew a card for me this morning. I've got to show it to you. I hope you don't mind. He did this card, and it's 2 aeroplanes. And the aeroplane at the top is a GB News aeroplane, and it's sending a rocket down to a Sky News airplane. And it says, let's exactly have a look at this. It says, eject, eject. We're under attack, and there's nothing we can do. Brilliant stuff. Great job from my youngest. Well, can you do better? Do send in your photos of your dads right now. We're going to celebrate Father's Day in style. And this show has a golden rule. We don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. So there you go, a very, very busy 2 hours to come. Big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with this one. How do you solve a problem like Nicola? There she is. Perhaps you call her bluff. Scotland's Commander-in-Chief, Emperor Sturgeon, has renewed her commitment this week to tear Scotland out of the United Kingdom. And whether it's Alex Salmond back in the day or Nicola Sturgeon now, deep down, I'm not sure these characters really believe in independence. You certainly wouldn't if you looked at the economic consequences. And Sturgeon is not a stupid woman. I suspect that Sturgeon and her ilk are a bit like the Anglican bishops who don't really believe in God, but have to keep waving the cross to keep the congregation happy. There is no economic, political, diplomatic, military or cultural benefit from the great nation of Scotland leaving the UK. It's a lose-lose situation. If you thought Brexit was a bit bumpy, just get your head around how Brussels would police the border between England and Scotland in the event of an independent Scotland joining the EU. And would the EU even take Scotland, given Scotland's debt-to-income ratio and the message it would send to other breakaway states like Catalonia in Spain? The case for Scottish independence raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. Firstly, what currency would Emperor Sturgeon use? The SNP glibly assume it will be the pound. Well, the Treasury will have something to say about that. Who will defend Scotland in the unimaginable scenario of a foreign attack? Particularly that Nicola wants to get rid of the nukes. This tartan pacifist that she is committed to getting rid of Trident, exposing Scotland at a time when monsters like Putin are rampaging across Eastern Europe and when China circles a sharpened pencil around a map of Taiwan. The golden promise of Scottish independence is EU membership. And I'll give it to Nicola, not literally, family show, but I will grant her that a majority of Scots indeed voted to remain in the EU. However, that the SNP wants sovereignty only to hand it over to Brussels shows how irrational and incoherent this plan is. No control of their currency, as they would have to take the euro. No control of their borders with Schengen. No control of their courts, plus huge monthly payments for the privilege of membership. It all doesn't add up. Talk about jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. And the last time I checked, the EU isn't great with small countries. Exhibit A, Greece, who was skewered like a kebab by Angela Merkel and friends. What happens to democracy if Scotland leave? With Labour support at an all-time low, and with the brief Tory renaissance strangled at birth, you're looking at single-party rule under Emperor Sturgeon for decades. Scotland is an incredible nation of people with a rich and proud history. I had the joy and honour of living there for 4 years. Scotland has always punched above its weight, economically, culturally, and beyond. There is also the small matter of Scotland being one of the most beautiful countries on earth, boasting stunning landscapes and great global cities like Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Aberdeen. Scotland is as good as it gets. It's fan-dabby-dozy. But forgive me for being a bit cranky about the idea that Scotland leaves. An independent Scotland would be poorer, more divided, and of course, more woke. Don't forget, Emperor Sturgeon is responsible for a policy in which children as young as 5 may now be able to change their name or pronouns without parental permission. That's right, change their name or pronouns at the age of 5 without asking mum and dad. Civil servants have been ordered to write he, him, or she, her on their emails. They, them are having a laugh. And so-called hate crime and legislation to stop it is now so draconian that you could potentially get arrested for making an off-colour remark in your own home. Under the politically correct ideology of the SNP, the Holy Church of Woke, the likes of national hero Billy Connolly would be strung up and burned at the stake for his wonderfully naughty comedy. And Scotland is now the epicentre of extreme gender ideology, which denies the existence of biological sex. In Scotland, these days, God knows what you're packing under that kilt. Nicola Sturgeon is an extremely bright individual and perhaps the most talented politician of her generation. On the face of it, she played the COVID-19 crisis brilliantly, stealing a march on Boris on a regular basis, casting herself as the nation's saviour in a time of crisis, a steady hand at the tiller. But don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Scotland's COVID case and death rate was just as high, if not higher, than down south. in spite of stricter measures. The success of Freedom Day in England in July of last year was a source of colossal embarrassment to both Sturgeon in Scotland and Drakeford in Wales. Yes, indeed, cases fell following a lifting of restrictions in England. The more authoritarian approach taken by Sturgeon and Drakeford caused huge damage, and the data would suggest it failed. Well, an independent Scotland will make authoritarianism permanent. And don't be fooled by the electoral success of the SNP. They are sitting pretty on the electoral map, but that's due to the hopeless collapse of Labour and the Tories. But it doesn't mean that they're loved or respected by all. There's just no one else to vote for. And a vote for the SNP is not necessarily a vote for independence. Now, I mentioned that Scotland would be more divided if she left. And the reason why is because the country was split over Indie Ref 1, and a Scottish departure from the UK would cement that divide. It's been reported, and many of you have written to me about this via email, that those who voted for Scotland to stay in the EU kept their views very quiet for fear of reprisals, attacks on social media, trouble at work or socially. And one particular viewer told me in an email that if you openly campaigned for Scotland to stay, you might get a brick through your window. That's how sectarian and toxic this has become. In the end, Scottish independence just makes no sense. The United Kingdom is the greatest political union in history. Great Britain is a beacon of diversity. It's the 5th biggest economy in the world, and it's a political, diplomatic, military and creative powerhouse. I'm not saying that Scotland wouldn't survive outside. Of course not. She will always prevail. But she would be weaker and poorer, as would England, Northern Ireland and Wales. You see, there's the point. We need each other. That's always been the beauty of the relationship, a reciprocal partnership that has provided economic and political stability for over 300 years. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. I'm tempted to call Nicola Sturgeon's bluff and grant her the referendum. Let her really sell what I'm calling Brexit. Given it's such a terrible idea, I just can't see how a majority of Scots would vote for it. The advantage of calling her bluff is that it would lance the boil of independence and kill this idea forever. And with that, likely, Emperor Sturgeon's political career. Because independence is the only thing she's got to offer. Outside of that, her only achievements are disastrous health outcomes, failing education policies, and appalling levels of drug addiction. Independence is Sturgeon's political fig leaf, behind which you'll find nothing. In the absence of independence, it will be immediately clear Sturgeon is the emperor with no clothes. The naked truth is that an independent Scotland would be a disaster for Scotland and a tragedy for the UK. And Nicola knows it. I do hope this bag pipes down. Reacting to that and all of the big stories of the day is a brand new star on the show, model, fitness guru and businesswoman Angie Best, sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee, and model, actress and TV personality Aisling Horgan-Wallace. Great to have all three of you with me. Aisling, do you think an independent Scotland will happen?
I hope not, because it would be a pity, as you said, for Great Britain. And I think with Nicola, she's just annoying. She's like one of these people that plays a coin game, you know, like head and tails, but wants to keep going until she wins. Like, you've already lost it, just leave it. Just leave it there and sort out the drug problems and all the other problems that you've got going on up there.
It does sound like we've got bigger fish to fry. Don't you think, Angie Best, have you got much of a connection with Scotland?
I'm half Scottish.
That'll do.
I'm a MacDonald.
And what do you think about Brexit?
Well, I think the sad part is I remember in the 50s when there were no jobs in Scotland, so everybody came down to England to get jobs, to Britain to get jobs. So it would be exactly the same thing repeating itself. She has a Napoleon complex, and I think she'd be a very good leader to unite us all again, to make us strong as we need to be. But Scotland should stay with us, not against us.
Aidan, what's your view on this? I mean, the bottom line is that Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP are hugely electorally successful.
They are indeed, but as you said in your monologue, a vote for the SNP doesn't necessarily mean a vote for independence. Had that been the case, then back in 2014, in September 2014, when we had the vote last time, we were told it was once in a generation as well, then it wouldn't have been 55-45 in favour of remaining part of the Union. My feeling, and I've been asked about it recently actually, is, you know, should Scotland wish to go, then she should go with our best wishes. But there is no evidence that they actually want to go. 55% of people said that they wanted to stay. We also have to consider wider implications here as well. We don't know how much the economics of it have changed in the last 8 years. I mean, oil was very strong at the time. It's not so strong right now. We have also other geopolitical situations as well. As you say, it's kind of divorcing itself from the UK to bury itself in the European Union. It doesn't really make much sense to me. And also don't think a new country, you know, starting from scratch, can really be governed by a single-issue party. That's effectively what the SNP are. As you alluded to in your monologue, it has ignored a great deal of pressing matters at home, the drug problem, even the rising unemployment there as well. So I think there's more to consider at home. I mean, she even says, Nicola Sturgeon has said in the past that even if you're against independence, you should vote SNP. So, I mean, I don't really know how that stacks up, because that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But she will keep banging the drum. I don't think there should be another referendum, but it should have been made clear last time. Although it was made once in a generation, it should have been said that we can only have these referenda once every 30, 40 years, and that would put to bed the argument, at least in the short to medium term. Angie
Best, a powerful argument from Nicola Sturgeon is that the Scottish people were taken out of the EU against their will when Brexit happened. So she would argue she's got every right, particularly constitutionally, to campaign to get Scotland back into the EU via independence.
Why? Why does she want Scotland to be in the EU? I don't understand that at all. Why would you want other countries dictating how you run your country? It's her country. It's her area. Why does she want to give it away to somebody else? She wouldn't be giving it away to somebody else if she stayed with Britain. We would all work together. They don't work together in the EU. They dictate.
Angie, final thought on this for now. What do you think about my Lance the Boyle strategy, which is that we call Nicola Sturgeon's bluff and give her the referendum, which she loses, which ends the idea of independence forever and possibly ends her career?
Lance the Boyle and give her the referendum. No. Just tell her no and tell Scotland no, and they will understand. No, don't go in.
Mark, this isn't... Mark, can I just say, sorry, this isn't gonna Lance the Boyle, because she lost last time, or Alex Salmond lost last time, and it still came back. It will still keep coming back and resurfacing until it's time she gets what she wants.
Aisling, what do you think? Lance the Boyle, be done with it? Call her bluff?
I just think that she's like Angie said, she's got a Napoleon complex, and she's just going to want to keep going. She'll keep losing, and she'll keep finding excuses to do it again and again and again.
Can I ask all three of you very briefly with a one-word answer, what is the percentage chance of Scotland becoming independent in the next 10 years? Starting with you, Aisling, percentage chance?
3%.
OK. Aidan?
20.
And Angie?
None. But just remember, we could get Gordon Brown back.
Blimey. Come back, Gordon, all is forgiven. What's your view, Mark, at gbnews.uk? Let me know your thoughts. Also, it's Father's Day, so do send in your Sunday selfies, pictures of your dad, please. We'll get straight to those after this break. My Mark Meets guest is the very talented former footballer, the remarkable Jermaine Pennant. I'm looking forward to hearing his story just after 10 o'clock. He's had drug and drink problems. He's lost money, but he's come up smelling of roses, and he's live in the studio. Also, I'll be dealing with David Beckham and his football double standards in my take at 10. You won't want to miss that. But next, in The Big Question, do dads still matter? See you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio. On digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, and the left fights the right, and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was, in fact, a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Big reaction to my big opinion monologue. Is it time to call Nicola Sturgeon's bluff and actually give her the referendum she craves? Let me know what you think about that. Well, so many emails to get through. By the way, I hope you like the fancy camera work. We're doing some special effects here. I feel a bit like James Bond or Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Let's have a look. This from Marion. Mark, make no mistake, my heart is breaking at the thought of an independent Scotland. Please, please say no. She is the worst thing for Scotland, I think referring there to Nicola Sturgeon. I'm one of over 1 million Scots who voted for Brexit. This woman is despised by a lot of Scottish people. All she cares about is herself. The Democrats in America at a women's conference she attended 3 years ago in Washington, together with Hillary Clinton, raised a 20-foot banner with the statement, Nicola, Queen of Scotland. But she's not my queen. I've only got one queen, and it's Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom. Amen to that, Marion. Well said. How about this from Betty? Hello, Betty. How are you? In Highcliffe in Dorset. What a nice part of the world that is. Betty says, let Nicola Sturgeon have her referendum, but allow the English to vote as well. Well, maybe it affects Britain, so maybe all Brits, Northern Ireland, Wales, England and Scotland should vote. How about that for an idea? Julie says Nicola Sturgeon has broken Scotland for her own personal goals. Where is all of the missing money? Why has she offices all over the world? No to another referendum. The vote was no. Wasting so much money on Indie Ref 2. She needs auditing, says Julie. Of course, I've got no evidence that Nicola Sturgeon is up to financial no good, but you are entitled to your view because this show is all about opinions. And we don't do boring, not on my watch, as you know. Last but not least for this moment, Hugh says, Mark, as a Scot living in England, I will have to say no. As a Scot living in England, I will have no say in my nationality if Sturgeon has her way. This must be wrong, considering the millions of Scots around the world who cannot vote in a future referendum. Where is the democracy? So Hugh is saying that he's an expat Scot in England. Why doesn't he have a vote? And what a brilliant point you make. It is Father's Day, so we've got a Sunday selfie special featuring all of your lovely dads, and they're coming in thick and fast. This is Dawn's dad. Oh, what a fine figure of a man. Serving there clearly in a naval capacity. This is Andrew. Oh, there you go. Now, that's what I call a dad. And that's a hot dad, isn't it? Do they call them DILFs? I think Andrew is a DILF. And I won't spell out what that means. You might need to look it up. And last but not least at this stage, I've got Anthony's dad. There you go. Well, look, lovely to see that fine young man enjoying a lovely garden spot. There you go. That's a very well-attended garden. That dad's got green fingers. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day. Tonight, it is Father's Day. And in a changing world of single-parent families and a critique of so-called toxic masculinity, just what is the role of fathers in 2022? That's tonight's big question. Do dads still matter? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome the CEO and founder of Dadsnet, Al Ferguson, and Matt Beaudreau, career educator and public speaker. Great to have both of you with me. First of all, let me start with you, if I may, Al. When did you found Dadsnet?
Goodness, that's a curveball at the start. I should know that off the top of my head. Dadsnet's probably...
It's been a few years, hasn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah.
And why did you found it?
Purely by chance, in all honesty. It was, I needed to speak to people, and the pub wasn't the right place. So I needed somewhere online and started chatting through social media, and it just grew organically from there.
Is it very telling, Al, that Mumsnet gets a lot more attention than Dadsnet does?
Well, you could argue it gets quite a lot of bad attention. So from that point of view, I mean, all of that kind of negative stuff is always going to hit the headlines way more than good stuff. So I'd probably just spin it in that way rather than any other implication.
And so, it is the big question on tonight's show, Al. Do dads still matter?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't really understand that question. Of course, it's not really... Yes, of course.
And I say that because, we've got single-parent families now, and you see the role, don't you, of fathers being somewhat curtailed. There's actually talk of getting rid of Father's Day and just having Parenting Day.
I mean, but that's... I mean, realistically, every day is Parenting Day, isn't it? Yeah. Every single day is Parenting Day. You're up to your eyeballs in kids' stuff every single day. I think it's more just a recognition of dads kind of doing their thing. There's no. I cannot see any benefit of doing away with Father's Day or Mother's Day. It's simply just a recognition of mum or dad or whoever plays that role. This is a name given to lots of people in lots of different situations. But actually, you might see a father figure in an entirely different role than a biological father.
I mean, do you think the role of the father has changed in a positive way? Because it clearly has changed in the last few decades. But has it been for the better or the worse?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, I think there's probably a lot more dads who are tired, but it certainly has been in a positive way. Yeah, I mean, even in the short term out of lockdown, we're seeing so many more dads highly engaged with their children's education, whereas 2 or 3 years ago they weren't, because they weren't around at school pickup. There was no working from home. There was no flexible working hours. All of those shifts in society have meant that dads are now way more engaged and active in the kind of day-to-day lives of their kids.
I'm delighted to welcome Matt Beaudreau to this conversation as well, career educator and public speaker. Matt, what do you think? Do dads still matter?
Dads matter more than they ever have. And the reason I say that is because there is a cultural push right now to take men in general and kind of make caricatures of men. And when I say caricatures, I mean they're either the soft, bumbling buffoon, or they are something that is ultra toxic and to be avoided. And the reality is most men, and I think most good men, are neither of those things. They're not the bumbling buffoons. Most men do love their families. They want to lead their families. They don't want to be this caricature on either side. And most men assuredly are not toxic. Are there bad people out there, men and women? Of course there are. But this, focus on toxic masculinity is something that I can't get behind that. I can get behind the fact that you do look like James Bond, though. I do want to make sure I say that before before I go. You look great.
Well, I'll take that, even if it's George Lazenby. I mean, why do you say that we need dads more than ever, Matt?
Well, I don't know statistics globally. I will say here in the U.S., where I'm based, we have moved towards darn near 1 in every 4 households is absent a father. That's ridiculous. And that's damaging to not just those homes where they're not present, but it's damaging to society as a whole. And we're seeing a lot of bad things come out of that, predominantly for our young heroes and for our young men that we serve. So, that to me shows that we need to get dads back in the home. And if we have my heart breaks for any single parenting situation, and I want to help them as well. And good mentors, at least should be able to step into those roles, especially for our young men. We need good, positive male role models.
Al Ferguson, it's an interesting point there raised by Matt, isn't it? I mean, you'll be aware of the campaign group Fathers for Justice, who certainly before the pandemic used to climb public buildings dressed as Batman and other cartoon characters. And they were campaigning because they felt that they were at the wrong end of legal judgments when it came to their access to their own children after divorce. Is that not an example of society saying that dads don't matter?
Well, yes, it is, but and there is a huge problem with the legal system when it comes to separating dads and mums separating. The starting point should be 50-50. That should be the point at which you start your conversations, not that mum becomes resident and dad is trying to get access. It should start 50-50 as a standard across the board globally. But I also just want to pick up on what Matt said as well. There is a correlation here in the UK as well with absent fathers and lack of education, lack of income, access into crime, young men getting into the workplace, gangs, all of that kind of stuff. There is a huge correlation between absent fathers and our children getting into those kinds of situations in life. And, we can blame so many other aspects of life, on whatever we want to blame it on. But actually, absent fathers is a huge trend that people do not talk about. And I'm not talking about separated families. I'm talking about children that don't see their dads. There's a lot of separated families where the child will still see their dad regularly. That's not an absent father. That's just a separated family.
Matt, how is it playing out in the States in terms of the role of fathers these days?
It's playing out like kind of what we were just saying. I mean, we've got far too many absent fathers. We also have far too many fathers who are physically present, but they've got this going on and they're just right. There's the distracted fathers as well. And so, everything that I do in education and mentorship program is working with these young people, but inherently that means I work with the parents as well, just to reprioritize. And so I will say, I think there's a very positive shift. I think we're seeing a lot of fathers that are going, hey, you know what? You're right. I need to be more present. Whether I'm physically present or not is one thing, but I need to be more present and engage with that young human so they know that I care about them. I am seeing a positive shift there. So it's kind of like this, dichotomy where we've got far too many households that don't have dad there, but we do have this kind of awakening of the dads that are present going, man, I've got to make sure I am prioritizing this relationship, with my young hero. So we got the good with the bad, but I stay optimistic in that.
Let's bring my panel in, if I may, gentlemen. We have Angie Best, Aisling Horgan-Wallace and Aidan McGee. Aisling, do dads still matter?
Of course they do. They're imperative for a child to get a good view on life and to raise them. A lot of my friends are single dads, actually, bringing up kids alone without the mum. So, yeah, of course, I'm here for the dads.
You're here for the dads. What do you think about this, Angie? Because you raised Callum pretty much single-handedly, didn't you, for a long time?
Yeah, I feel very strongly about this. Children need both the mother and the father equally. Otherwise, as in my case, what happens is the boys turn to the peers for talk and advice and guidance, and the peers don't know any more than the kids. So it's very, very important that you have both a mother and a father.
Do you think, Aidan McGee, that society or even the government do enough to support the role of fathers?
I don't necessarily think it's about fathers. I think you can broaden it out to parents in some ways. I mean, I looked after my father for the last 4 years of his life, day in, day out. I did everything for that man, and I don't regret it one bit. But I did find that, or I do find sometimes that people are quite good at looking after their children, but once they've left home, they don't necessarily pay as much attention or take as much heed to the welfare of their parents. And I think as a society, we should be able to manage up as well as we manage down. If you look at Asian culture, for example, they prioritise the parents on equal footing, or sorry, not prioritise, it's the wrong word to use, but they give equal standing, equal footing, equal priority to parents as they do to children. And I think we should do more of that rather than getting to an age where you think, well, actually, mum and dad have served their purpose. You might have had a bit of inheritance out of them. Let's just chuck them in a care home and let's look downwards. Don't be surprised if you do that. Don't be surprised if your children then copy what you do because they're only playing follow their leader.
Do you think possibly, Matt Boudreau, that there is reverse sexism towards dads?
Sorry, who's that to, Mark?
Matt Boudreau, do you think that dads suffer reverse sexism, where they're belittled?
So I come from a position of believing that every man should take sovereignty over his emotions in that way, right? So do I hear people say, and have I had people come at me, whether it's in my companies, whether it's in social media, and say, well, I'm a single mom, I'm doing just fine without a dad, and what if the dad's, and they try to twist the argument. Of course, I don't want bad men around children, of course. But I don't take it as an attack. So are there people out there that try to twist the argument? Of course there are. Do I pay that any attention? No, I don't. I think it's on every man to be a good human being, be the father that he needs to be, not just be a male who makes babies, be a father who takes care of his kids. So there's people that get upset, but there's people that get upset over everything. I pay it no mind.
I wonder, Al, whether we need to train boys and young men to become great fathers. Do we need more education about what being a father looks like?
Well, I'm not sure I'd use the word education, but yes is the answer. I think that we need better role modelling. Funnily enough, my son today said to me, weirdly, we're having a Father's Day evening meal, and he said, "Daddy, you're a really good man." Like this, I don't know why he said it. I mean, maybe I am a good man, but he said that, and then I replied to him saying, "Well, you know what my job is to make you a really good man. So if I'm being a good man, then you will become a good man because you will see what I'm doing. Hopefully, that's kind of the plan. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule of teaching and education. I think it's about, if I'm living right and I'm making right choices, he's naturally going to follow exactly how it was said just now with our elderly and our parents. If we do it right, they'll do it right.
And what do you think about the idea that men can go back to a more traditional approach, Al, where it's dad that delivers the tough love, that strong male role model that Matt was talking about?
Well, yeah, of course, you can have that. I don't think that's exclusive to men. I think there are a lot of tough female role models that can, I mean, my wife can often play that role in our family. But I think what we're seeing is that society is shifting very quickly now, particularly with, dads in the home life and taking much more responsibility. Dads are doing the weekly shop, dads are doing the cooking, dads are getting the kids ready for school and taking them to school, and mums are at work a lot more. There is a shift that we are kind of witnessing that's going, before our eyes, and I think that works as long as there's a balance across the board.
Yes, it's interesting, Matt. You're a spokesman for Man Uncaged. Tell me about that organisation.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal group of men that I didn't even feel worthy to sit at the table. And it was a group of men who were brought together, some successful entrepreneurs from all different areas of business the byline, the through line for everybody was that we were devoted fathers and husbands. And so we all went down to an undisclosed location this past year and put together this organization where all of us are taking a different approach to how we get back to making sure men are being good men, that masculinity is seen as this honorable set of virtues and values where we want to provide, we want to protect, we want to impact society in a positive way, we want to put others before ourselves, and we want to raise our young men to, just like Al said, follow the lead, follow by example. So we had our very first event a couple of months ago, and we had a live event. We filled up an auditorium, but we streamed it out to, I think, another 10,000 or so people. And again, just inspiring dads to be the husbands, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the fathers that we need them to be in society. And we've got a lot more planned, so I'm excited about it.
Final thought on this, Al. What are the biggest issues that are raised on Dadsnet by fathers?
Finances, mental health, the stresses that I think life is bringing for every family, certainly across the UK, with the cost of living squeezing everybody at the moment. There's a lot of conversation around energy bills and how we're going to make ends meet. So finances is certainly a big one, obviously linked very closely to mental health. It's a huge myth that I think men don't talk about the way that they're feeling. Spend 2 minutes in Dadsnet and you'll absolutely understand that is a myth, or listen to a Dadsnet podcast. Absolute myth. They're definitely the trends that I think we're facing, and if we can stand up and support each other, I think we are going to hopefully have a generation of men and dads that are stepping up and doing the best job they can do.
Well, look, Dadsnet is a fantastic resource for all dads out there, and even mums as well. It comes highly recommended. And Matt Beaudreau is a spokesperson for Man Uncaged, the founder of Acton Academy Placer, and he hosts the highly popular podcast, The Essential 11. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, as well as my panellists. A fascinating conversation. Well, keep those dad selfies coming in, because we are celebrating Father's Day in style tonight. Folks, lots more to come in our news agenda and much more. Next up, in the light of the fact that Oscar Pistorius may now meet the family of the woman he murdered, can you ever forgive murder? We'll discuss that next and after 10. My big opinion monologue, all about David Beckham and his double standards. And my Mark Meets guest is football ace Jermaine Pennant. See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan. Tonight at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is the football ace who's been to hell and back, but he is the ultimate survivor. Jermaine Pennant, live in the studio. Of course, played for Arsenal, Liverpool and many other top clubs. It is Father's Day today, so we're celebrating with Sunday selfies, and this is James. What a handsome devil, with a rather lovely bunny with big ears as well. That's not your baby, is it, James? Also, we've got Jazz and Ellie's dad. There he is. I bet he's a legend with his lovely, lovely children. And last but not least, Debbie and her dad. Oh, that looks like a lovely vintage shot. Happy days from a more innocent time. Well, we'll get to more of your Father's Day selfies shortly. Still reacting to the big stories of the day. Model, fitness guru and businesswoman Angie Best. Sports broadcaster Aidan McGee, and model, actress and TV personality Aisling Horgan-Wallace. Once renowned South African Paralympian Oscar Pistorius is set to face his late girlfriend's father in pursuit of an early prison release. The sprinter was sentenced to 13 years and 5 months in prison for shooting and murdering his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp in 2013. Well, it begs the question, can you ever forgive a murderer? Aisling?
You've come straight to me. I think in this case, no, I wouldn't. If it was my daughter, absolutely not. I think it's day and night between somebody who was defending themselves against an attacker, for example. I think that can be forgiven. It's weird, actually, that this has come up because an ex of mine from when I was like 20, which is a long time ago. A long time ago. He's just recently been in the news for killing his girlfriend, wrapping her up in tarpaulin, putting her on a double-decker bus and throwing her in a bush. And it's just blown my mind. And the thought of forgiving him, and he hasn't murdered anybody that I know, but for me to forgive him, it's just, I couldn't.
And is it traumatic for you to know that you were very close to and very exposed to somebody that could do that?
It's so traumatic. I have nightmares about it now, and it's just like, God, how could I have been so close to someone that was capable of such horribleness, evilness, wickedness?
Yeah.
So I think if you're a parent of somebody that has been killed, I think it's a very big ask to ask them for forgiveness. And I think Pistorius, right? Have I said that right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it's, he hasn't sent a letter before, has he? He hasn't sent it years ago. He's sending it now when he's up for parole, for early release.
And of
so
course,
it just
he denied the charges throughout the court case. I mean, Angie, a person of faith would say that you must forgive because that's very healing for both sides.
Oh, there's no amount of spirituality that could make me forgive somebody who murdered my son. It's one thing losing a child. It's another thing losing them to murder. There is no way. This man should have been hung by his ghoulies and left to drip. There's no way he should be forgiven. And I don't know about this, what do they call it in Africa, where you can go and talk. They do that in America too, don't they? I suppose it's useful in some cases. It would, if I was doing it, it would put me in jail because there's no way that he could ever be forgiven. What a sense of entitlement this man's got. How dare he? He's never apologised. He knew what he was doing. He just thought he could get away with it because he was Oscar.
Aidan, I mean, you've got a foot in both camps. So, you know, on the moral side, as a journalist, you'll have a view. You're also a sports broadcaster as well. I mean, do you think there's a sense in which the father, who tragically lost his daughter, may actually achieve closure by meeting the man that killed his daughter?
It's possible, certainly. But I think when we're talking about murder here, I think it's, from my perspective, and I try to forgive, I really do, but I think it would be almost impossible to do that, especially if it was one of your own offspring. Pistorius was a huge enigma to me, Mark. 10 years ago, I interviewed him probably more than anyone else in the lead up to London 2012 at the Laureus Sports Awards in London. He couldn't have been more engaging, more obliging. He couldn't do enough for us. I went away thinking, what? He's one of the nicest blokes I've ever met.
But that's how my ex was, who's now in prison for murder. It's weird.
And then 6 months later, 8 months later, I'm in bed in the morning. I've got a load of missed calls from my friend in America saying, have you heard what's happened? Pistorius has killed his girlfriend. I could not believe it. I really couldn't. But that's not, when you read into it, that's not atypical of the behaviour of somebody who's capable of that kind of thing, as you say.
Any number of self-help books will tell you that actually forgiveness is a way to move on after a trauma. So perhaps it would be your job of work as a bereaved parent to forgive.
Yeah, but those self-help books...
Isn't anger the easy route?
Those self-help books weren't written by somebody who'd had a child who was murdered.
Yeah.
You know, it's like self-help books are great, but you have to experience it and go through it before you can actually know what you as a human being are capable of forgiving or not forgiving. So when it's self-help books, when it comes to something like that...
So it's clear that you would not be able to forgive Angie. However, if presented with the opportunity of meeting the person that murdered your child, would you?
Absolutely.
But you'd go to jail, Angie. I know what you'd do.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to be like Hannibal Lecter, except you'd be the one, you know, bound up in the glass box.
Yes.
But can I ask you what you would say? I mean, if you were in this poor man's shoes, what would you say to Oscar Pistorius? What would the conversation look like?
How would we possibly... I'd say, why? And I'd say, what makes you think you should still be alive? I'd ask all the obvious questions. I don't know. I can't even think about what it would be like to be in that position. So I don't know.
It might be better for Mr. Steenkamp, you know that. It might be better for him. He may have had that process. He may have gone through that process himself and asked himself the question over and over again with his wife, and maybe he thinks that it might be good for him. It's not necessarily all about Pistorius himself.
Yeah, because his mum, June, won't go, but the dad is ready to be the voice for their daughter,
apparently. It is, though. Oscar's doing it because he wants to get out quicker.
Yeah, so that's what makes it, gross.
No way.
I mean, does an apology make a difference at this late stage?
No, I think it's so contrived.
The daughter's dead. He's still alive. No apology is going to change that.
There was no sniff of an apology when...
Exactly, it's the timing.
It's the timing when there wasn't the possibility of
parole.
Yeah, exactly.
What about wider society? You seem pretty clear that a bereaved parent can't forgive. Should society forgive murderers? Aidan?
I'm not sure. I never said no parent can forgive. I mean, it's an individual thing. We've decided on the panel that we wouldn't be able to.
Probably only a minority would.
Yes, a minority. I think if you can, it's probably a wonderful thing in some ways, because at least it shows that but it has to be for the benefit of the parent themselves.
What about society as a whole? Because, I mean, this guy will get out eventually, won't he?
Yes, he will, because he's young enough, but I think it's possible for a murderer to be released from prison and to give something back and to not return to the person he was before, or he or she, and be someone different. But in terms of forgiveness, I'm not sure. I think you probably have to live your life in the sidelines and hope no one notices.
What do we do with ex-murderers as a society?
There's loads of more that have been coming in and out of prison for the last so many centuries. So, what have we done with them?
Do we allow those people to move on, though, and rebuild their lives?
Yeah, of course we have. We have done for centuries.
Would that include Pistorius appearing on TV as a pundit?
No.
I don't think we could stomach that.
No.
I don't. I'm not just talking about in this country, I'm talking about globally.
Globally. Fascinating conversation. We'll get to more of that shortly with my brilliant panel. If you've been impacted by our conversation, why don't you check out SAMM, it's Support After Murder and Manslaughter. It's a brilliant organisation. Well, I'm very excited because my guest in Mark Meets tonight is in the studio in just a few minutes' time. He's ace footballer Jermaine Pennant. He's been through a lot of challenges in his life. A very, very tough childhood, drink problems, but also great success on the pitch as a player for Arsenal, Liverpool and England. He's been to hell and back, and he tells his story at exactly 10:10. But next up, I'll be dealing with David Beckham in my Take at 10. Don't go anywhere.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, and the left fights the right, and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was, in fact, a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 10 o'clock and this is Mark Dolan tonight. My Mark Meets guest is troubled football genius Jermaine Pennant. We'll be talking about his rise to stardom after being bought for £2 million at the age of 15. He went on to play for some of the biggest clubs in England, but has also made a number of headlines off the pitch. In a few minutes, in my Take at 10, double standards from David Beckham. Then, in the news agenda with my panel, will Camilla make a good queen, and should Big Brother return? Reacting to those stories and many more are my all-star panel of Angie Best, Aisling Horgan-Wallace and Aidan McGee. Plus, tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30, and we'll find out more about whether those rail strikes are happening this week. It looks like they are odds-on to actually occur. So lots to come, but first, the news headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The country's biggest rail union is being warned that holding strikes this week would be a huge act of self-harm. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says the RMT has ignored requests to negotiate a resolution ahead of a mass walkout on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. The union claims its members have effectively taken a 20% pay cut due to rising inflation. Labour says the government wants the strikes to go ahead to stoke political divisions. RMT's former Assistant General Secretary, Steve Headley, told GB News, Labour's right.
They want a distraction from soaring fuel prices, from the cost of living crisis, and they want to take on the unions. It's a great distraction. It's red meat for the Tory voters. They rally the party faithful. So I think they do, and I think this strike's really avoidable. I think we should be still around the negotiating table, but rather than negotiate in good faith with the unions, Shapps seems more interested in the latest soundbite in the press.
Meanwhile, rail union leaders say they're seeking urgent talks with the Transport Secretary amid rumours of mass ticket office closures in England from September. The Transport Salaried Staffs Association described the plans, which were reported in the Sunday Times, as explosive. The union says moving to online-only sales would badly impact millions of elderly and disabled people. The Rail Delivery Group, which represents train companies, says no decision has yet been made. The Labour leader says the Tories are hoarding power in the capital, which is directly linked to the cost of living crisis. Speaking in Coventry, Sir Keir Starmer warned the government's levelling up plans will fail if they don't devolve power outside of Whitehall. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has previously said it's essential to address the UK's regional inequalities. Sir Keir says a Labour government would ensure that councils have a more stable income.
Hoarding power has consequences. The Tory economic record is terrible. Low growth for 12 years. Stagnant wages. And the reason for this is we're not making the most of every part of our country. We're squandering the potential in our towns, in our cities, in our coastal areas and our rural communities. All the places that you represent, we're squandering the potential.
And swimming's world governing body has voted to ban transgender athletes who've gone through male puberty from racing in women's events. The sport's new gender inclusion policy was passed by more than 70% of member federations. It means that athletes who transitioned after the age of 12 will not be allowed to compete against women. Instead, open categories will be created for them to participate. FINA President Hussein Al Musallam says he knows the policy won't be welcomed by everyone.
We also have to protect competitive fairness at our events, especially women's competition. I completely understand that this is a policy which will not be supported by some of our transgender athletes.
GB News is on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. Stay tuned, it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. Big stories, big guests, big opinions, and in the news agenda with my panel, will Camilla make a good queen and should Big Brother return? Reacting to that and many more stories are my all-star panel of model, fitness guru and businesswoman Angie Best, sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee, and model, actress and TV personality Aisling Horgan-Wallace, plus another topical game show and tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction. And my Mark Meets guest, live in the studio, is troubled football genius Jermaine Pennant, a man with a remarkable story, a story of survival. But first, it's time for my take at 10. Golden Balls is balls deep in trouble. Amnesty International has renewed its criticism of David Beckham after the former England footballer heaped praise on Qatar, but ignored its appalling human rights record during an interview to promote the World Cup. Quizzed by friend and former Manchester United teammate Gary Neville, as they strolled like star-crossed voyagers through Qatar's capital, Doha, Beckham waxed lyrical about the country's hospitality and the warmth of its people. Very warm, unless you're a woman, a foreign worker, or gay. In what amounted to a shameless corporate video, Gary Neville was so far up Beckham's backside, it's any wonder why the Qatari authorities didn't throw them in the slammer. Bend it like Beckham doesn't play well in Doha. Where does Beck's overnight Damascene conversion to Qatar come from? Why is Qatar, for this famous Essex boy, now the promised land? His Mecca. Probably his Mecca Bucks deal, worth a reported £10 million to be a World Cup ambassador. Whether it's David Beckham or Gary Neville, who seems to be replacing Keir Starmer as the official leader of the opposition, or the BBC's wokester-in-chief Gary Lineker, there's something about these millionaire ex-footballers that really sticks in the craw. They're happy to jump on any bandwagon as long as it suits their brand and, more importantly, their bank balance. I wonder what Mr. Family Values David Beckham would think about how women are treated in Qatar, given that he has a wife and a daughter. As he'll discover when he goes there for his World Cup jaunt, they are second-class citizens. The willingness of a famous ex-footballer to be the face of this backward state demonstrates both the duplicity and moral bankruptcy of professional football. Of course, the tournament should never have happened there in the first place. So next time you see any virtue-signalling footballer waving a rainbow flag or sporting colourful laces, remember that having a conscience will always be on their terms, and they can be bought for the right price. The football authorities that preach inclusivity and diversity will, of course, flock to the Middle East, taking a month off from their principals and cheering on their teams in stadia built effectively by slaves, many of whom lost their lives in crippling 40-degree heat. Woke footballers are the biggest hypocrites of all, and it's time to show them the red card. Let's get some panel reaction. Aidan McGee, footballers and their double standards. We've got to discuss this. I also want to know what you think at mark@gbnews.uk. So many footballers seem to be very, very political now. Of course, my big opinion monologue on Friday was all about Gary Lineker. It went viral on YouTube. Do check it out when you've got time. But what do we think about Beckham? Is he guilty of similar double standards? Aidan McGee.
Qatar is a huge, huge problem for the sport of football. I was in Qatar back in 2010 with work. I was writing Sam Allardyce's column for the News of the World, and my boss said to me, "While you're there, Aidan, considering you're there for a week and you're staying at the Ritz-Carlton, can you go along to the local organising committee, because the vote was due to be later in the year, not the vote, but the actual handing down of the World Cup was going to be happening later that year." He said, "Can you go to the local organising committee, maybe get some photos, find out what they're going to do, if they got it?" I mean, everyone thought that they wouldn't get it, and they, 5 months later, out of nowhere, having been told by the local organising committee that they were just in it to familiarise themselves with the process, they get it out of nowhere. Now, we all know what goes on. We all know what went on. In fact, the guy at the head of FIFA at the time, he's in court just a couple of weeks ago, and he will be back in court again should he recover his health. Sepp Blatter, of course, I'm talking about. Now, the issue beyond that is that I have no sympathy for the sport of football, because they've had 11, 12 years to deal with this, to pull away from Qatar. They know everything that Qatar stands for. Qatar isn't changing that position. They're just airbrushing over it. They're just not talking about it. In fact, some of the Gulf states anyway are going even further by invading golf. They're invading football as well, because they bought Newcastle United before Christmas. But Beckham himself, I don't really understand why he's getting involved with this, because he's extremely rich already. I don't believe that Qatar would necessarily dovetail with his brands, and he endorses so many things, both past and present. If we think about all the various brands that he's been involved with, Brill Cream, Hague Whiskey or Hague Vodka, whatever it is, over the last sort of 20 years or so, I can't believe they're pushing him to get involved with Qatar. The amount of money, the £10 million, I mean, he's worth about £400 million. Is it going to make a big difference to him? And then we see the England footballers taking the knee. They've also got rainbow armbands when they're playing the game, and they're criticising other nations for booing that because they don't want the politics in their sport. And yet there's this juxtaposition of getting involved with Qatar. It makes no sense whatsoever. It plays havoc with the football season as well. So we're having to adjust our whole schedule all around Europe and even beyond, with every federation is having to rearrange everything to accommodate this World Cup. It doesn't suit anybody, and yet nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody asked Gareth Southgate after the defeat against Hungary how, having criticised the Hungary fans for booing the taking of the knee, why he's going to be then taking his team to the World Cup. If the England players feel so strongly about it, they won't be taking that plane in November.
Briefly, Angie, you know a thing or two about famous footballers. Is Beckham guilty of double standards?
God, it's time to burst the Beckham bubble, for heaven's sakes. I don't think he's got two pennyworth of brains in his head to know what he's doing anyway. I don't think he sees further than the end of his nose. And yes, of course, he's doing it for money. His son has just married one of the wealthiest heiresses in America. So Beckham has now got to somehow catch up. So he's going to be spending that $10 million in a few weeks. It's all about greed. The fact that Qatar gets a free pass on this just shows that it's all about greed and money. And that takes the beauty of the game away. It's disgusting.
Aisling Horgan-Wallace?
I'm with Angie, but I don't think that he's the sharpest tool in the toolbox. And I think he thinks Qatar is a stringed instrument. I mean, that's the only reasoning I can gather from this. Like, why else would you do it?
They've had 12 years to recoil from this, to make their feelings known, and nobody's really bothered doing it to the extent to which this tournament could be taken away from Qatar, or even just positioned back to the normal summer timetable, and we'd be enjoying the World Cup right now.
Well, let me jump in and defend David and say that he'll argue he's there to represent football, which, of course, he has done with distinction for Manchester United and England on many occasions. Plus, of course, the guy has done a colossal amount for charity. So I guess there's two sides to every coin. But panel, do stick around because we want you for the papers at 10:30. Also, will Camilla be a worthy queen? Are you looking forward to Queen Camilla eventually? Do you think she deserves the gig? We'll discuss that very, very shortly indeed. Plus, Big Brother is coming back, and we'll discuss whether you'll be watching it with two former Big Brother stars. But it's time now, speaking of stars, for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, sport, business and beyond. Tonight, the highly talented former footballer Jermaine Pennant, who played for his local side, Notts County, before making high-profile moves to Arsenal, Birmingham, Liverpool and Stoke. He even played for England 24 times for the under-21s. Jermaine was born in the Meadows area of Nottingham, and his father was a semi-professional footballer himself, who inspired Jermaine to play. His favourite toy as a child, we're told, was a football, which was never far from his side, and the rest is history. Jermaine has battled some demons along the way, and he's made as much of a name for himself off the pitch with celebrity girlfriends and a colourful social life. And in 2018, following the release of his brilliant autobiography, Mental, Bad Behaviour, Ugly Truths and the Beautiful Game, he entered the Big Brother house, which won him a new army of fans. Coming from tough and humble origins, this guy has reached the pinnacle of professional sport and has quite the story to tell. I'm delighted to say that Jermaine Pennant joins me now. Hi, Jermaine.
Hi.
Starstruck. What a player.
Listen, thank you for getting me on.
And you know what? When you played for Arsenal, Liverpool, all those other great, Stoke as well, those great clubs, you really, really looked the part in that club shirt. How did it feel when you became a professional? That moment where you're like, I now play football for a living.
It was amazing. Obviously, wanting to be a professional and playing it my whole life. But finally getting the run out for Arsenal was my debut in the Premier League. So to finally get that was a magic moment. And not only to make your debut, as I scored my hat-trick on that debut as well. So it was a even better moment.
What a moment, what a splash. So your dad got you into football?
Yes. He played semi-professionally himself, and he one day took me to a beach, threw me a ball, and I kicked it back, controlled it, and he took a step back and thought, that's unusual. You expect a kid to blast it 5 miles down the road or something, but I had the technique, and then he took me, threw the ball me again, and I controlled it and passed it back, and he's like, wow, OK, you've got a talent there. And then ever since then, I think I was 3, he nurtured it.
And you grew up in a tough area, didn't you? It wasn't the easiest childhood. You certainly weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
No, I'd say it was definitely the opposite of that. It was tough. It was obviously council estate, a lot of crime, drugs, gang warfare, which I was accustomed to and seen throughout my whole life, really.
Did you manage to avoid it, or did you get sucked into that world?
I avoided it truly just through football, through loving the game and always wanting to play football. I know that was my way out of the life of crime or following the footsteps of peers and friends and other family members.
Yeah, and so that's it. You entered the glamorous world of football. Are you naturally gifted, do you think, or was it hard work?
I would say I was naturally gifted. I could have got further in my career or prolonged it even longer, but not having the guidance from my upbringing, not having a mother around, which took a big effect on my life, and not having the structure there to put me on the straight and narrow at times, which I needed. It was always difficult. So the talent got me so far. But obviously it could have went on.
So you had a slightly sort of fractured family setup, which meant that you didn't maybe have the emotional foundation for the challenges of adulthood.
Yeah, of course. It was a broken home from the age of 3. So I was always, on a uphill battle, really. And like I said, the emotional side of it, I learnt to shut off that part because I never had that that mother figure, that maternal love, which I always craved. And in my adult life, it did take its impact and led to multiple mistakes.
And did fame and money and celebrity, did it make it worse?
To a certain extent, yes. Because I came from absolutely nothing. And when you get all that fame and then when you have all of a sudden got money, I was never taught how to look after that and treat that. So it's like a kid in a sweet shop, just, you know, so I didn't really get taught the fundamentals of money, how to protect money, and when the fame comes, how to, you know, understand what the consequences and being in the public eye. I had to kind of learn the hard way and on my own.
And, I mean, do you have any regrets? Because, I mean, you played with distinction for all these great clubs, but, I mean, do you look back on your career and feel that there was any aspect of your talent that was unfulfilled?
There was a few regrets, yes. And I take full responsibility for probably not reaching the heights I could have reached, you know, for that playing for the England national team. I done one of my dreams, and that was play for Liverpool, and the second one was to play in a Champions League final, which every player wishes to, which I did. Yeah. So my third one was to not play for England. But I think if without the off-the-field incidents and you know, putting the not leading off the straight and narrow, I could have probably, you know, reached those heights.
Well, I mean, it's incredible what you achieved. You've had an amazing career and gone far beyond anything that your dad, I suspect, could have dreamed of.
Yeah, funny enough, he mentioned me the other day. He said he was down, and when he thinks of Grandma, who his mum passed away, you know, 4 years ago, he said he thinks about my exploits, and it just makes him happy, which was a great little moment because me and my father's relationship was a bit, you know, sour. Obviously, you know, the story for it, but it's on the mend now.
Yeah, for sure. And in what way did the partying impact your playing? Was it just the physical toll of late nights and drinks and stuff like that?
Yeah, it would be, especially as you get older. You know, sometimes when you're young, you probably have a few here and there and get away with it. But if you want to be the top of your game, you've got to be professional. You've got to be, you know, stick with the elites. And like I said, with me not having that guidance from young, I was easily led astray. I've never had an addictive personality, but I'll say the nights out and the alcohol did lead to, you know, certain mistakes.
You won't be the first footballer to have succumbed to the pleasures of a nightclub, will you?
No, absolutely not, and I'm sure I won't be the last. But again, I keep saying it, but not having that guidance, and then when I was frustrated not playing, and I really, that's all that I knew. So when I wasn't playing, I got so frustrated. The next thing that could take my mind off was go out.
And there isn't the incentive to keep yourself physically, you know, perfect because you're not playing next Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where probably one of my faults, and which I do regret, is not staying professional, because that chance could have come like that. Maybe the coach was seeing that, he's not really, he's taking his eye off the ball. He was going out a little bit too much, rather than being professional, being like the elite athletes do now and concentrate and get your head down. Maybe that chance could have come even quicker.
Did you get any of the guidance that you craved from any of the managers you served under?
No, the only one I did get who I really responded to well was Steve Bruce.
Right.
He was probably the best man manager I worked under.
At Birmingham?
At Birmingham, yep.
He's just a very relatable guy, isn't he?
He is, and he understood me. So sometimes when if I was driving him mad, he wouldn't bite his nose to spite his face. He wouldn't leave me on the bench or not play me because I was one of his stars. He would always play me, and in return, I respected that, and I gave him that extra more to repay that faith that he was showing on me.
So, Champions League final. What a moment.
Oh, it's amazing.
You got an early night that night, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I think I had an early night for the month leading up to it. No, it was a great moment, a great achievement in my career. And when I found out that I was going to be playing, it was about 4 days before. I couldn't speak high enough. Even when you say it now, it brings a smile on my face.
I think it's incredible. You've got this amazing football CV. Did you keep the cash?
I did invest it in properties. So most of, when I had it, it did go into properties. Not because it was an investment side, because I was just stupid. Wherever I moved, I said, I want to buy this. If I had a pool, I want to buy this, it's got a pool.
And now you're very grateful.
I am grateful, yes. But at that time, I wasn't thinking, going to be a great investment. I was just being a child and saying, I want that, I want this. But so most of my money's in property.
I'm really pleased to hear that you're financially secure. That's very important. And what about your health? You look fabulous. You've always been a handsome devil. Are you looking after yourself? I mean, do you still party, but in moderation? Where are we at with that?
That's absolutely zero party. I'm probably in bed, me and my partner in bed by 9, watching probably Harry Potter. It doesn't excite me anymore. I think you grow out of that. And no, I'm just literally a homebody.
Right.
You know, a little cinema dinner in there, but apart from that.
And you're dating. It's got to be a famous lady, hasn't it? You've been linked with a few celebrities over the years?
Jeffrey, but no, her name's Jessica. She's an actress, absolutely amazing girl, and she's perfect for me. And I hope she can say the same.
Because I'm so incredibly ancient. The surname of your lovely girlfriend, Jessica Impiazzi, and she's a big star herself. So now, she's the one in the limelight. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, because she's actually very quiet. She, she doesn't like to be in the limelight unless it's for work. And yeah, it works, and we just get along, and we kind of have a similar upbringings as well. She had a difficult one, and we just, kind of bond and we see eye to eye, and it just works, and we're both happy at the moment.
I'm really proud of you for your achievements, and also very happy for the pair of you. Wish you both well. You must come back. Perhaps you'd like to join us on the panel.
Oh, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, get your opinions on a range of topics.
Oh, I've got some opinions.
You know, Big Brother's coming back.
Is it?
You were in the Big Brother house.
Oh, Jesus, let's not go there.
Well, moving swiftly on. That's the only embarrassing part of the interview. The Big Brother house. No, listen, it was brilliant. And it's been great to have you on the show. What is next for you? Do you have plans?
Yes, I've got a podcast out. It's called Brutally Honest. It's just about childhood trauma, broken homes, and people trying to get out the better side of it. And we've also probably in production of in early stages of a documentary of my life from where I came from. And, talk sport as well and a little bit of media.
Oh, brilliant stuff.
Trying to keep busy.
Well, look, you're always welcome here at GB News. It's been lovely to have you on the show, Jermaine. And do check out Brutally Honest, which sounds like a must-listen podcast. Look forward to that documentary as well. Next up, Camilla. Will she be a great queen? And at 10:30, the papers with full panel reaction. See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
You're watching Mark Dolan tonight. Of course, it's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads watching. And good blessings to those who don't still have their dads around, but keep them fondly in their hearts. This is Vicky's dad. You've been sending in your Sunday selfies. Look at that. First of all, I love the beard and I love the shorts. Look at those calf muscles. Very tanned as well. How about Vanessa and her dad? Look at that lovely... What do you mean? It's not Vanessa, it's Isabella. I happen to know those two very well indeed. How about Rafe and his dad? Gerald, holding a photo of his dear late father. There you go. That's 3 generations of very fine men. Emma and her late father. Oh, there you go, Dad. Look at the adoring look that Emma is giving her dad. God bless you. Phil. Here comes Phil. Now, that's a cool dad. That's another DILF. I've been flooded with DILFs tonight, let me tell you, Aidan McGee. Kevin's dad, Cliff.
Oh.
There you go. And it's a winning smile. Thank you for that. We'll squeeze a few more in before the end of the show. Thank you for sending them. Brilliant stuff. There you go. A Selfie Sunday special for Father's Day. The papers in just 2 minutes. But reacting to all of the stories of the day, Angie Best, Aidan McGee and Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. Let's talk about the Duchess of Cornwall. Lovely Camilla. She made her British Vogue debut this week ahead of her 75th birthday in July. She stunned in several outfits, including a long royal blue dress, and spoke of the work that she does on domestic violence, as well as the media scrutiny she faced in the decade her marriage ended, plus Charles and Diana's divorce. With the Queen's Jubilee wish for Camilla to be known as Queen's Consort, she'll effectively be Queen. So once Charles is king, will she be a worthy monarch? Are we looking forward to Queen Camilla? Aidan?
I don't think it's something we're necessarily looking forward to. I do think she was persona non grata back in the 90s, wasn't she? Yeah. Because she was, but, you know, for everything that happened...
Homewrecker.
Yeah, exactly. That's how she was perceived. I think she took the decision around then to kind of step back, not from royal duty, but I think she stepped back from the public eye. She sensed that she had a battle to win here with the hearts and minds of the public, and I think some people will probably never forgive her. I can tolerate... I'm no great monarchist, I have to say, but I don't think she's going to set out to be like the Queen. Nobody can be like the Queen. Nobody can really assume that role. But can she sit in a position where she can uphold or withhold or, probably uphold the values of the monarchy? I think she can probably do that. Having said that, you know, I think she's probably going to have to... It's a difficult role to kind of take a back seat in, which she's been doing for the last 25 years.
I mean, that's an intimate photograph, isn't it? Wouldn't get away with that now, Ashleen. I'm going to put my cards on the table. I'm a fan.
Are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that it was a tough gig coming in to marry Prince Charles.
Yeah.
And I think she's been dignified. She's done a lot of work for domestic
I think she was the right girl for him, actually.
Yeah,
right woman,
and probably
actually.
all along.
Yes, absolutely.
And I found she's good-humoured. She's quite witty. She's got a dry sense of humour. She's very down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly cannot think of a single gaffe that she's made since she joined the royal family.
Oh, just apart from having an affair.
Apart from...
and ruining 2 marriages.
In fairness, actually, who can resist old Charlie?
I mean, he is irresistible.
Especially in those double-breasted suits.
I think their love story is real sort of Romeo Juliet stuff. It's quite a shame.
When he's dressed up for the polo.
Yeah.
And she's like kind of mopping the sweat from his brow under a
It's
tree.
just something dreams are made of, you know.
Isn't it?
But yeah, no, I think she's a bit boring because we just don't know enough about her personality. But maybe that's good for the position that she's going to be in. That's fine. We don't want someone that's going to make sensational headlines all the time. Someone that just knows their position and is happy with that. That's good. I do think that their love affair and story, I mean, I think it's obvious that they've loved each other from the start, and it's just such a shame that they couldn't have been with each other from the start.
I don't think a good friend of the show, the Queen of US royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield, will forgive Camilla for what she put Diana through, because, of course, Diana gave that interview with Panorama and said there were 3 people in that relationship. Yeah. Do you think the British public, though, have moved on? Have the Brits forgiven Camilla for the Diana situation?
I think there's many that haven't, to be honest. I think everyone's always Team Diana. I think probably a lot of just sort of, you know, forgiven and forgot. They're forgiven, but they'll never forget, is what I'm trying to say.
That is beyond awkward, that photo of Diana and Camilla there, isn't it?
So bad.
Angie, what do we think? Queen Camilla, are we ready?
Well, no. She's nice, she's dull. The people around the royal family will never let her make a gaffe or do anything wrong. she'll be wheeled and pushed and walked into doing everything perfectly, of course.
Yeah.
But I think we're missing something here. I think that Camilla and Charles would be wonderful advisors to
William and Kate.
William and Kate.
So I think it should be William and Kate next, because then they can take all the advice and the wonderfulness of Charles and Camilla and be advisors to the two new. What we need in this country is youth, is vitality, is something for us to look at and go, oh, good. Not two old fuddy-duddies who are just like the Queen who's just, going to go. And we're just bringing the same thing back in. That's not what this country needs right now. We need the youth. We need the vitality. We need inspiration. And then Camilla can come and help me teach the nation how to make 70 the new 50, you see. She'd be good at that.
Well, yeah. By the way, she's been mocked a bit for her appearance. Do you think she's a bit horsey?
A bit.
And on that note, let's move on before we get sent to the tower. It is just after 10:30, which means it's time for tomorrow's papers. And let us start, if we can, with the Daily Star. This is Monday's Star newspaper. Summer of fun. How about this? Pluming marvellous. 4 more 28-degree centigrade heat waves thanks to a Spanish plume. Britain is set for 4 more heat waves this summer. Forecasters say we've got a plume of Spanish sunshine to thank for the glorious weather ahead. Much needed good news. The INEX rail strikes to carry on until the autumn. Mick Lynch, the General Secretary of the RMT, warns people should expect a long fight between the unions and Network Rail. Independent Macron set to lose his grip on power. The French president charms locals outside a polling station in Le Touquet today in what looks to be an early political setback in his second term. Unions urge ministers to find solution to rail strike. Metro next. I feel I can finally breathe now as I've come out as gay. Congratulations to Olympics legend Dame Kelly Holmes, who has been praised for revealing her sexuality after decades of fear. Network derailed. The biggest rail shutdown in 30 years starts tonight. The Guardian, anger as ministers refuse to join last-ditch effort to halt rail strikes. Well, that's because the government don't want to pay up, because we are in an economic crisis with spiralling inflation. Go figure. Swimming moves to bar trans women. Swimming's world governing body, FINA, has voted to restrict the participation of transgender athletes in elite women's competitions in a major decision that has been welcomed by many female athletes, but it sets it apart from most other sports. Macron loses seats to left and far right. And sometimes I cry with relief. Kelly Holmes on coming out. Next up, let's have the Mail. Why William wishes Andrew would just vanish from slimmed-down monarchy. Many of us could share that emotion. Sharon's pride as trans swimmers are barred from women's races. And summer strikes plague spreads. UK braces for rail paralysis. Starmer still won't condemn action. Now teachers and NHS workers warn of walkouts as well. The Times, teachers and doctors threaten to join the strikes. Picking up on that story. Rail union boss backs call for a general walkout, and British Army must be fighting fit for Russia. This according to General Sir Patrick Sanders. And those are your front page headlines. Let's get full panel reaction. And Aisling, these rail strikes, they're happening this week, clearly. The government won't even be attending last-ditch talks.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, isn't it? And, of course, they're setting the trend for everyone else to go on strike as well. And I think it's a little bit selfish because they're paid more than the average teacher is paid anyway. And the teachers deserve a lot more money. And, well, now they might go on strike, but before they weren't. It just seems that, I don't know, I think it's disaster.
I wonder whether these strikes could backfire, particularly when the public are struggling to get to work, get their kids to school, or indeed, the transport of goods as well. We might have empty supermarket shelves, Aidan.
They're playing a very, very dicey game, Mark. Grant Shapps alluded to it just a few days ago when he made his speech to the workers. He almost went above the heads of the rail chiefs, if you like. But they're competing with Zoom now. They're competing with Microsoft Teams. I was running an agency in 2006, and I remember sitting in that kind of commuter rush, thinking, I was getting on in zone 4, zone 5. There's people who couldn't get on the train. They were paying £5,000 a year for a ticket.
Yeah.
Something had to give. I got rid of the office. That's what I did. I rang my boss in Newcastle and said, I want to get rid of the office and I want to put the money we save on our Clerkenwell office to a junior salary. And that's exactly what we did. And then steadily, one by one, throughout the next 2 years, each regional office, ditched the office and we worked kind of mobile. And that was before connectivity was as good as it is now. So that's where we're moving. That's the direction of travel. It should have happened probably 15 years ago. But I think the first casualty of that could be our method of transport. In some ways, it'll be good because it will relieve some of the pressure and it'll make rail more of a kind of a commodity in terms of moving around and using it for social and not just commuting. But I don't understand why we have to load people on trains all the time, put pressure on infrastructure, pay absolute fortunes. You don't even get a seat most of the time, as I said. I think they're playing a really dangerous game.
There are plenty of professional groups, Angie, who deserve a pay rise, but not at the tail end of the biggest economic shock since the Second World War.
I feel so sorry for ordinary working people who get up every morning, go to the train, get on it, go to work. Are they still going to get paid when they can't get to work? I mean, nothing ever changes. When I left this country 30 years ago, they were talking about network strikes. They were talking about strike. They make more money than the NHS and teachers. So why are they wanting to strike? I don't get any of this. Did you ever think about running as an MP?
Yeah.
No, I didn't actually, no.
I was as well. You're so articulate.
He's
you
so
say it like it is.
Yeah.
And also I love the way
lots.
that you kind of reinvented your professional role with your boss. That was very good.
I just said to him, I just said, look, can we just... I mean, we're only paying about £1,000 a month. It's quite good, actually, in Clerkenwell, even in 2006. But I said, we're never there. Our phone bill came through once. It's 13 pence. I said, you're not doing any work. I said, well, I think you find we are, because if you look in the papers at the end of the week, our stories are landing, we're making you money. And eventually he got on board with it. And he was an older guy who'd always worked with an office. And he said to me, all right, we'll give it 6 months. I said, John, his name is John Wardle, fantastic guy. He had his own helicopter. That's how well he was doing.
By the way, that was the second nice name drop. We had Sam Allardyce earlier.
Yeah, we did. I know, that's true. So anyway, we went ahead with it. I said, there's plenty of office space around, and if it doesn't work after 6 months, he said, what are you going to do if you can't see them? How are you going to know they're working? I said, they'll get, if their stories get in the paper, we're working and we get paid.
Too right. Aisling, swimming moves to bar trans women from the sport. Your reaction?
I think it's only right because testosterone obviously makes men stronger. Some would say faster, and I just think that it's fair that they have their own genre or their own group to compete in and not against women who don't have the testosterone that they would.
You know a lot about health and fitness and well-being. You've devoted decades of your life to it. And I think you'd be well qualified to say that there's a big athletic difference between a male physiology and a female one.
Well, you don't need me to tell you that, do you? Of course there is. How can you possibly put a 6'4", muscled-out, taller, wider, stronger against a little woman? It's ludicrous. But that's what's happening to this world right now. It's ludicrous. This PC bullshit is taking over everything.
I won't apologise for that because I agree with every word.
Sorry.
And this is GBNews, the home of free speech. I got to say, you're taking the words out of my mouth. I mean, how's this going to go down in the world of sport? It feels like a moment, maybe the first moment that we've got some pushback to this madness, Aidan.
Yeah, there needs to be some pushback. It feels like Sharon Davies, MBE, is just fighting a lone crusade. I feel sorry for her sometimes. But the problem for me is when it comes to how long before we get a clamour for women to take part in men's sports, contact sports. Yeah. You know, football would be bad enough, rugby would be bad enough. Why not boxing? Imagine that.
I'm doing
That'd
boxing.
be absolutely dangerous. Yeah, OK. You probably knocked me out, but... no, seriously,
Aisling knocks me out every time she smiles at me. I'm here all week. Speaking, by the way, of positive stories, at the Daily Star, pluming marvellous, 4 more heat waves on the way. It's actually what we need, isn't it, Angie?
Yeah, if only we had some air conditioning.
Yeah, good luck with that. The best part of the heat waves that are to come is that Aidan can top up his tan. I mean, you're already, at the moment, you're a kind of David Dickinson mahogany.
Yeah, without the antiques, yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite jealous.
I think we can darken you further.
No, Bromley has been very, very sunny the last week or so, I can assure you of that. And I spent a lot of time there. When I'm not at GB News, that's the only other place I am.
Did you enjoy the mini heat wave we just had?
Yes, and my
neighbours... It was one day, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah, well, I don't know. My neighbours will tell you differently. I was out in a bikini every day for the whole week.
Yeah. Wearing a vest.
Yes, that's right. Well, Sebastian, the director, was half naked on Friday.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Let's be honest. But he's lucky because he's got the body to pull it off. We don't all have that privilege. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, those are your papers. We've got lots more to get through. Next up, it looks like ITV are going to buy the rights to Big Brother. Well, let's speak after this break to two former stars of Big Brother. Will you be watching it? See you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Really looking forward to our Great British Game Show. It's all about dads that fathered famous celebrities. So stick around for that in just a few minutes' time. But more stories from the news agenda. But it is Selfie Sunday and it's Father's Day. So let's have a look at some more of your gorgeous dads. Well done to Mescana, Abby, Rebecca and Melissa and the team for getting these up. Tracy's dad, how do I pronounce that? It's a lovely name. Is it Hermes? I think it's Hermes. And then a very, very fine-looking man. And look at him, he's a natural sailor, looking wistfully into the distance. Thank you for sending that in, Tracy. This is Julia's dad. There you go. He is the real flower of Scotland. What a winning smile. What a gent. I wonder if he likes Nicola Sturgeon. Jonathan and his kids earlier today, having a great day out by the canal. Lovely stuff. Lovely family. We'll try to squeeze a few more dad selfies in before the end of the programme. But reacting to the big stories of the day, Angie Best, Aidan McGee and Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. I think you'll agree we've been travelling business class with my panel tonight. Can't wait to hear their views on this. Big Brother could be making a comeback after being off screen for 4 years. According to the Sun newspaper, the reality show is expected to channel hop from Channel 4 to ITV, as they're said to be... Actually, it was Channel 5, so it's been Channel 5... Channel 4, but it's off to ITV, we're told. They're said to be closing in on a deal. So what do we think? Should Big Brother return? Let's speak to two former stars, Ashleen Horgan-Wallace and Angie Best. So, Ashleen, you went into the Big Brother house quite a few years ago.
I mean, 16, 17 years ago
Imagine.
now. Yeah.
You were knee-high to a grasshopper, a little girl.
I was 26.
It changed your life, didn't it?
It really did. I mean, I lived in hostels, I was homeless, and, you know, it really just set me on the path of becoming the property mogul that I am.
When you're homeless, you're not supposed to be housed on a TV show. Big Brother house.
I mean, I was already... But you know what? Oh, my goodness, there's me, look. Oh, wow, memories. Oh, wow. I mean, I've grown a bit since then, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. I used to have an outfit like that. Ashleen, you made such a splash on the show. It changed your life largely in a positive way.
Like massively, yeah, completely.
Any downside? You know, this idea that showbiz sort of chews you up and spits you out.
I think if you're not strong enough mentally, then yeah. I think if you go on there with the wrong intentions, for example, if you go in there to be famous and then you come out and you're not famous, then that can wreak havoc with your, mental health. It really can.
And you were in the tabloids for years.
Yeah. Still am, darling. What do you mean?
Love you still are. Well, this is your second coming, let's be honest.
Yeah, third.
But were you comfortable with press attention coming out of the house?
It was strange because I had a lot of fake stories from guys. I mean, they're dreaming if they the guys that were doing stories on me. So that was weird, but the rules have changed now and they couldn't do that. So it was a bit weird, but I kind of just loved it and lapped it up. It was just a whole new world for me, coming from such a dark place to a place where I was being adored and loved.
And what about being in the house? Was it not stressful? Did you get enough sleep? Did they feed you?
Oh, I definitely got Stockholm Syndrome. I didn't want to leave. I was crying in the diary room on the last day, begging them to keep me in that cocoon. I felt safe. I thought I'd come out and have rotten eggs thrown at me and potatoes and never work again. I don't know why potatoes, but that was the vision that I had in my head.
Potatoes, yeah. That's
Mashed potatoes wouldn't hurt.
Still wouldn't want it.
Not king eggs.
It was a brilliant experience. And then I went on again in 2015 as a legend of, and it felt different when I went in the second time. Not sure whether that's because I was more savvy to cameras and being in the limelight, or whether it's because the show had actually changed a little bit.
Become a bit more manipulative, perhaps?
Yes, and a little bit more contrived. I think it's brilliant news if it's coming back, and it's brilliant news it's going to ITV. That's got a massive budget. But they definitely need to bring back the 24-hour live stream, so we can really see the real person, not just a snippet of them.
Well, I've having worked, in telly for 20 years, producers are so tempted to micromanage and contrive exciting stuff to happen. But when Big Brother started, and why it captured the nation's imagination, is that it was real. And
Exactly.
there's talk of going back to basics. That it's a proper reality show again.
Yeah, they need to, and they need to not pick people off Instagram with more than 50,000 followers. Go and pick real people with, real bodies. I know I say that sitting here, but I mean it. Go and pick people that don't particularly want to be on TV. That's where you see the real organicness of Big Brother.
People that don't want to be on TV. Now, Angie, what possessed you to go into the Big Brother house?
Well, they asked me, I've never done reality television except that one, and they asked me to go on and surprise Callum. And I thought, oh, of course, that I jumped at it. I had such a good time.
Time in the Big Brother house.
Here it is. And, you, again, like Ashleen, you made such a splash on that show because you were yourself.
Oh, who else am I going to be?
Well, unfortunately, on that programme, a lot of people are very fake, aren't they?
Yeah, this is why I think bringing the celebrity one back is good. That's a great idea because they know how to handle that gig. They know what to do in front of the cameras. They know what to do when it's over. But bringing back public one, unless every single one of those people gets a shrink at the end and gets well looked after, they shouldn't do it because it's too damaging. What, babe?
I agree that celebrity one's really, really good.
Yeah.
Aidan, I'm told you're down for Love Island series.
Leave it out.
Once you hit the target weight, is what I was told.
Yeah, I've got a bit of weight, bit of time to go, Another couple of years I should be there.
Oh, God, they're so evil to you.
I know.
Will it be a success? Because you're a keen media observer.
Yes.
Do you think that this would be a good move for ITV?
Yeah, listen, they will have an idea. The TV company are a good gauge in terms of whether it's going to be successful or not. It is possible to take an old format, re-energise it, reproduce it, maybe not in the same format as before. I mean, you think things like Come Dancing became Strictly probably 30 years later, didn't it?
Yes.
But then, on the other hand, you've got Crossroads. When I was a child, Crossroads was a big soap, and then these things died a death for a reason. When it came back, it just didn't work. I always think of the best example I can think of was outside of the kind of the celebrity sphere. You think of the mini car, right? My parents had minis when we were children. They were so small. We were a family of 6. We had a big, long Labrador called Tessa. We couldn't fit inside it. And it was about to be downgraded completely. They weren't going to make them anymore. And then BMW came along and said, you know what? Has anyone thought that this iconic car could be a foot wider and a foot longer, and then suddenly they sell all the time?
But we're not talking about cars. I would like to see ITV raise the bar in the standard of television, not lower it.
Oh, my goodness. Big Brother isn't lowering the standards. It's brilliant TV. Do you know in Russia it has been going on for 15 years or 17 years. Somebody has lived in there, had babies.
What?
Yeah,
One of my
real life.
One of my first interviews I did was with Nasty Nick. Do you remember him?
Of course I do.
God.
He actually, Nick
First
Damon.
series, wasn't it?
He was, summer of 2000. He came across, when I interviewed him, he's so much nicer person than he appeared on television. He was clearly playing a game. And that's what you're talking about, isn't it? About he wanted to go on there and be famous.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work for him. I haven't seen him on telly for years.
Yeah.
No, indeed not. Very interesting to hear from two former housemates. Will you be watching? Let me know, Mark at gbnews.uk. We're going to do a few more dad selfies before the end of the show, but now it's time for the Great British Game Show. Father's Day has inspired today's game as well. It's called Who's the Daddy? We're going to... That's right. In Who's the Daddy, we're going to put up the picture of a celebrity's father. My panel and you at home have to guess the celebrity produced by this dad. So let's have a look at the dad that produced a celebrity, first of all. We know who that is.
The girl, she was on Love Island.
It's Danny Dyer.
It's Danny Dyer, and the daughter is called?
Something Dyer.
Danny.
Danny Dyer.
Danny Dyer and Danny Dyer. That's right. OK, how about our next celebrity? But this man, who is his famous son?
David Beckham's. That's Ted Beckham.
It is
father
Ted
David
Beckham. Absolutely right. Proud dad. I take it all back about what I said earlier. How about this father? Who did he produce?
Meghan.
That's right. It is, of course, Thomas Markle, who has been interviewed exclusively on GB News by Dan Wootton in what has always been headline-making television. How about this other father? Who did he produce?
Oh, Boris.
Boris.
Right, and what's his name?
His name is Stanley.
Well done. OK, we've got another dad now. There they are.
Think about the same age.
Now, he himself is a singer, but who's his famous daughter?
Miley Cyrus.
It is, and that's Billy Ray. Blimey, that's a young-looking dad,
I didn't know they were related.
OK, we've got another dad. Who is that?
Georgia May.
There you go. Georgia May is the daughter. Georgia May Jagger. OK, we've got another dad who produced a famous child.
Oh, Angelina Jolie.
Right, and for a bonus point, he is?
Oh.
Mr. Jolie.
Well, the brilliant actor from the 70s, John Voight.
John Voight.
I recognise the face. I've seen him loads of
times. He did a movie called The Champ. OK, we'll power through a couple of others. We know who this guy is.
Hey,
His daughter is?
I don't know.
Tilly Ramsey.
OK.
Oh, she's on Love Island.
OK, yeah, absolutely.
Is she?
Well, look, that will do us because we've got to get to the all-important issue now of your photographs. That's right, your lovely selfies. So what we'll do is we'll get a few of those in. Look, thank you so much for your company for the last 3 days. It's been brilliant to have your company. I cannot thank you enough. And also, I think you'll agree, what a panel we've had tonight. Aidan, Ashleen, and, of course, Angie. We've had a great debate throughout the show. Please come back soon, all of you. Do stick around for headliners as well. I'll be in charge of that. I'll be looking after all of the big stories from tomorrow's show and tomorrow's papers. Dan Wootton's back tomorrow at 9. Thanks for those selfies. Happy Father's Day.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK will be dry and sunny for most, although rain arrives into northwest Scotland later. Here are the details. Monday morning will start bright and chilly across southwest England. It'll be dry with plenty of sunny spells, but it will be rather cool with temperatures in single figures to start the day. Skies will be partly cloudy across southeast England in the morning, but there will still be plenty of sunny spells through the morning. Lots of sunshine to start the day in Wales. It'll feel chilly at dawn, but feeling pleasantly warm by late morning. A dry morning is expected in northwest England, with plenty of sunny spells and lighter winds compared to the weekend.